Half a year ago, I switched from the iPhone 14 Pro to 15 Pro, and all this time, I was asking myself, was it worth it? Now I think I have enough experience with both of them to finally answer the question, which phone should you really buy, 15 Pro for $1,000 or 14 Pro for $630? These two iPhones are very similar in almost every way you look at them, but they're definitely not the same phones. Take the display. Size-wise, these screens are absolutely identical. 6.1-inch OLED, both phones have exactly the same dynamic island cutouts, and even peak brightness is identical at 2000 nits. Watching videos and consuming content on them feels extremely similar, and it pains me to say it, but unlike Samsung, Apple didn't add any anti-reflective coating to the 15 Pro, so you will see just as many fractions on its display as on the 14 Pro. Technically, these are the same display panels, but what makes 15 Pro noticeably better, at least for me, are the reduced bezels. The difference between the two phones isn't huge, but it already changes the perception of the phone, especially when I use it without a case. And by the way, I highly recommend taking the case off when you are at home, at least. In such a controlled environment, you can be somewhat confident that you won't break or drop the phone unless you're extremely clumsy. iPhone 15 Pro feels like a totally different phone. It feels much more refined and polished. Even though the 14 Pro is the third gen of its design, the rounded edges of the 15 Pro and the brushed titanium make the phone feel so much better in hand. And after half a year of using it, honestly, I never wanted to put on a case. With the 14 Pro, on the other hand, for the entire year, I was wearing it in a leather case because the case made the edges somewhat more rounded and helped protect the delicate steel from scratches. 15 Pro is also lighter, and trust me, you do feel it in real life. Sure, 14 Pro looks more like a piece of jewelry, like a fashion accessory, and for people who are chasing the looks, it might be a preferred option, but for me, it's all about being practical and comfortable, so the 15 Pro is my choice. And I have it in natural titanium, and this is one of the best colors in the history of iPhones, in my opinion. All the colors on the 15 Pro look much better than the 14 Pro, maybe except the blue one. Purple on the 14 Pro was a bit more elegant, a bit more interesting. Durability-wise, I can't say that 15 Pro is a clear leader here. Even with its titanium body, I'm usually pretty careful when I'm using my phones, but I did manage to drop the 15 Pro couple times. Titanium did the job well. There are no scratches, scuffs, or other marks, though I've seen plenty of tests online to know that the back glass on the 15 Pro shatters easily. The 14 Pro, thanks to sharp edges, is a bit better in this regard, so if you drop your phone often, the 14 Pro might be the way to go. Though it scratches really easily, and if you put it in the pocket with your keys, you will end up with a pretty beaten up phone. But the worst part about the durability of the 14 Pro, for me, was the display glass. I feel like each year I buy a new phone, iPhone, I talk about the same issues. I don't know how Apple managed to do it each year, but the display scratches like crazy, especially in the 14 Pro. After a few months without a screen protector, many minor and deep scratches appeared on display, even though I was really careful with the phone. This year, the 15 Pro screen mostly stayed intact, but credit mostly goes to me being more careful and mindful. It still scratches easily with keys, coins, and air in your pocket, so no matter which phone you choose, I highly recommend buying a screen protector as well, just to be sure. And battery life. I'm not gonna go on a rant about how terrible the battery life is, because it's not. It's quite alright, especially given the size of the phones. If you don't use your phone too much, they both can last you one day, and I know plenty of people who are fine with this. I personally have decided that I need more, so recently I bought myself the 15 Pro Max just to have a phone that can last longer. And here's the thing you need to keep in mind if you can choose which one of these two you should get. The battery health on 14 Pro drops really fast. In less than a year of using the phone, it dropped so much with so few charge cycles that I thought it was defective or something. But no, this is a very common problem for all 14 Pro iPhones. Batteries in them just don't last. In a year, you would have to replace it. In the next year, you would have to replace it again. 15 Pro doesn't have any issues like this. Apple is so sure about the quality of batteries they're using this time that in the phone specifications, they upped the approximate number of cycles the battery can last before it drops to 80%. Previously, it was 500 cycles, but on the 15 Pro, it's 1000 now. And you do feel it. After half a year, the phone holds the charge just as long as the day I bought it. Well, maybe a few minutes less, but the difference is nowhere near as huge as it was with the 14 Pro. Because when I bought that phone, in half a year, I already needed to use a MagSafe power bank to get through the day. But hey, the price difference between these more than makes up for one battery replacement. Also, you know what I noticed about 15 Pro in all these months after I switched? Cameras are much better on the 15 Pro, and I don't mean that the quality difference is huge or super noticeable. It's just all those little things here and there that when combined make the images look better. For example, almost all the sensors on these two phones are identical, and there's no point in comparing the pixel sizes and apertures, but the algorithms and the way the 15 Pro processes the images makes the photos look noticeably better. In your typical day-to-day scenarios, you most likely will not notice that many improvements, but I see how these phones process the highlights, the shadows, HDR, the faces, how they do the noise reduction and so on. Each of these things on 15 Pro is slightly better than on the 14 Pro, because sometimes the photos taken from the 14 Pro may look over-processed and too HDR-ish. Most often I saw that when taking portrait photos, especially in harsh lighting conditions, but most of the time both phones produce equally amazing photos, even though the resolution on 15 Pro is much higher, 24 megapixels instead of 12. If you're just scrolling the photos on your phone, the cameras on both are more than enough. But if you're serious about photography and you want to take the most out of your phone's sensors, go for the 15 Pro. I especially like the automatic portraits feature on 15 Pro. Makes shooting portraits so much easier. The phone automatically recognizes the objects and collects the depth information, and I can later enable portrait effects or change the focus point. Oh, and by the way, if you want to work with raw photos, both phones in this case perform practically identically. Both the 14 Pro and 15 Pro can shoot 48 megapixel raw photos as well as 48 megapixel JPEG photos. Just saying. What you should also consider is whether you're planning on shooting videos often. If you're just a casual person shooting videos for your Snapchat or Instagram, then you can choose either of these phones, because in standard mode, the videos from them look practically indistinguishable. However, if you're leaning more towards a creative, professional direction, you should really consider the iPhone 15 Pro, because I found myself using its ability to shoot log quite often. It doesn't replace the professional camera that I'm using to shoot these videos, but I like to fire it up from time to time and have some fun with it, see what it's capable of. In a way, shooting videos on iPhone became fun with the 15 Pro. To shoot these videos properly, I often connect an external SSD to my 15 Pro with the Type-C, and this is another thing that 15 Pro does much better than 14 Pro. The Lightning on 14 Pro just isn't versatile. You can't connect anything to it besides the charger, and for me, this versatility is a huge thing. Type-C makes a huge difference. Makes charging faster, lets me use the phone as a power bank to charge my AirPods, makes transferring files to the phone much faster, and overall is a better connector. Sure, if you have the entire ecosystem full of Lightning devices, then you may not feel all the benefits of the Type-C brings, but it's definitely something to keep in mind. But do all the benefits of the 15 Pro outweigh the price difference? As I already mentioned, you can get 14 Pro on Amazon for $630, so it's a $370 jump from that to 15 Pro. And that's where I think we should talk a bit about longevity and the future for these phones. Because iOS 18 is coming, and it promises to bring a ton of AI features. Some rumors claim that those features will only be available on the iPhone 16, but we all know that machine learning and AI cores get much better in A17 Pro, so there could be some exclusive AI features that would work on device on the 15 Pro. On 14 Pro, those features may either not work or require internet connection. Again, for a regular person, there won't be any difference, but if you are a geek and you're trying to always be at the forefront of innovations, then try to find a good deal on 15 Pro. If we put aside all the improvements in the 15 Pro that don't matter to the majority of users and only take into account how much features you get for your money, then 14 Pro obviously seems like a much better choice. It's got the same great display, nice design, great set of cameras, and enough performance to power the space station, but it's more difficult to repair, scratches easily, and has an outdated Lightning port. So after all, it seems like the choice largely depends on your wallet. If you can spend extra on the 15 Pro without cutting down your meal expenses, and you're not spending your less money on a phone, then go for the 15 Pro. But if you're looking at the best bang for the buck, then take a closer look at the 14 Pro. Or you could just find the standard iPhone 15 for around the same money and pretty much land a perfect balance of features, longevity, and price. And by the way, we have a great review of the iPhone 15 right here on the channel. Be sure to check it out next. Thanks for watching and see you soon.